My pad is on the top of the golf club, which allows me to support the pressure that the club head is trying to pull to the floor with and bow my left wrist over. How you use your wrists in your golf swing can be incredibly confusing. Today, I want to clear up a lot of that garbage. If you've taken any golf instruction over the last 10 or 15 years, whether it be YouTube, through a coach, or from a pal, I'm pretty sure that at some point, someone will have told you to bow your left wrist at the top of your backswing in impact, in an effort to hit a beautiful draw. I'm also pretty confident that you've bowed it to a point where you've equally made a bow of your left wrist and you've hit the shot with what felt like a bowed left wrist and you've shanked her out to the right. How the left wrist works and how the right wrist works are hugely important to maximizing the speed and energy you gain on the club face. If you are not fully aware of this, but it's an important ingredient, if you don't know where your grip sits on the golf club, and what I mean by that is your left hand strong or is your left hand weak? Is your right hand strong or is your right hand weak? You won't have an idea of how much you need to push these wrist angles. These wrist angles, when they're corrupted, when they are tried to push in a particular orientation, let me tell you, it can be debilitating. It can feel like you are trying to tie yourselves up in knots in an effort to just hit a golden draw. Bit better than that, but the ball fundamentally bent to the left. So that being said, what do we need to do and what do we need to understand how the right hand and how the left hand works in a golf swing? First of all, you need to check out my grip series videos because that will tell you how you place your hands on the golf club. The second thing that we need to understand is what are we trying to do with the grip through impact? How do we use our hands through impact to make the golf ball fly on the trajectory that we'd like to see it on? And most of you want to see the ball bend right to left. And also, when I make the ball bend right to left, am I able to take a divot? Because we want both of those ingredients to create compression and to create a draw. First up, the left hand is without doubt the most important hand on the golf club, the top hand, because that is the pinch point, that is the pivot point between the shoulder and the club head. Now, when this head weight is swinging through strike here, we must understand that that club head is trying to pull itself to the earth's core, and in doing so is trying to push the handle up. And when you're trying to push the handle up, it means that this left hand is trying to rise. So if the hand is trying to rise, by very nature of the handle rising is going to pull my hand into flexion. So when we see golfers at impact with bowed left wrists, it's not because they're trying to put themselves in that position. It's because the energy and weight of that club head is actually trying to lift the handle up. Because as I pull this golf club into strike and that head weight is back there, and the head weight is trying to pull itself to the earth's core, as I then have to oppose that by lifting the handle up, because if I didn't lift the handle up, I would run the club into the floor. And then what you do is by trying to bow your left wrist, it's actually making the problem even worse for yourself. So what you see as a bowing of the left wrist through strike actually could be someone trying to push down and create more cup through their wrist rather than bow through their wrist. And I get this a lot. When I talk about my swing and I talk about the energy being put in, but sure, I don't see that. Yeah, but if you don't see it, it doesn't mean it's not happening. And that's the trouble with force. You don't see force. If I was to stand over at the wall here and I put my hand up against the wall, my body's not moving, but can you see force in the wall? Can you see me applying anything? You can't see my right foot pushing, can you? You can't see my left hand pushing into the wall, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. And so when we see this golf club moving around the ball, just because we don't see the force and energy into the handle doesn't mean it's not happening. So when we get the golf club in our hands and we think about this left hand, as we start to move this golf club back, what I would like to see, if the grip is correct, please go and check out my grip series. It is so important. If the grip is correct, as you start to move the golf club back and you're applying the correct pressures in the grip, you're pushing down with the left hand and pulling up with the right hand, you will start to see at this point in the golf swing more of a cupping at this point rather than a bowing at this point. And when you then start to get more of a cupping at this point, all of a sudden the pad of that left hand starts to allow that golf club to start to set upwards. Now, where it sets, the angle that the club sets on will ultimately be dictated by how much you can lever the golf club away. So when you're pushing the handle down and lifting the head up, the more you push the handle down and push the head up, the more the club will set vertically. The less you have push down and pull up, the more you have drag away, the more the golf club will swing in and around you. And so at that point, now the golf club lays down. I've got a bowed left wrist. Brilliant. Garbage situation here. Because now all of a sudden that club shaft has got no pitch, and all of a sudden I'm going to try and steepen it on the way down. I'll get that bow of the left wrist, and now all of a sudden I'm hitting pull draws. So with the right grip, as I move the golf club away and I push the pressure down and I start to set the golf club up, as I then take that golf club up to the top of my backswing, now all of a sudden I've got a little bit more of a cup in my left wrist and not this garbage bowing nonsense. Unless you're someone that has got a really, really strong cup here, a really strong cup, would you then really want to maybe level it off a little bit? But if the grip is correct, you could still arguably get away with it. So please stop trying to bow your left wrist as hard as you can at the top of your backswing, because it is nuts. So when we get to the top of the backswing, and now all of a sudden I've got some half decent shape here, as I start to pull down, this cup in the left wrist can still be present, and now the pad is on the top of the golf club. My pad is on the top of the golf club, which allows me to support the pressure that the club head is trying to pull to the floor with and bow my left wrist over. So even though I'm pushing down and trying to create cup in my left wrist, I'm fighting a force of the head weight that is extreme. I'm just pushing back. I'm just pushing back with a feeling that's coming at me. In the same way, if someone was to stand up at me and try and push me over, nobody's moving here, but I'm applying force to push back in the opposite direction. If I just let go, I'll fall over. And so in the same way, when the club head is being tried to pull to the earth's core, it's trying to pull my left wrist into this bowing ingredient, which all static images start to make you think, oh, well, that's what he's doing at strike, so that must be true. And that's why when we start to look at golf swings and we analyze them from images, it's where we get unstuck because they are stills. They're not showing us energy, they're just a still. They're a moment in time. And when we read golf swings in that manner, we are really going to come unstuck. Well, that's why we've got this proliferation of right elbows tucked, bowing of left wrists crap. So anyway, so we got that club now, that pad of the left hand that's more on top, and now the golf club can start to swing around us. Now that golf club can pivot around this left wrist as opposed to feeling like I'm trying to raise the handle up and bow it. So now through strike, I'm trying to feel like the pressure on that handle is coming through the butt of the golf club because I've got some decent wrists there. And now the golf club can start to unload around me. That's me pushing down and unload around me. Look how I've pushed down 2.8 angle of attack. The path was inside at 3. Face was shut at 6.5. If you said to golfers, cup your left wrist at strike and hit the golf ball, the last thing any of them would believe is that the ball could have some sort of draw. I've hit down at 5.6. I've hit from the in at 3. 1.7 shut. And that's me feeling as much as I could push down and swing around. But of course, if my grip is crap and I do that, it's going to end badly. So why not just grip the club better instead of this game of twister with getting your wrist angles in the wrong spot in an effort to just make the ball draw? Because all of a sudden, you'll start to feel how the golf swing starts to get a bit more length in it. And as we're all getting older, our backswings are getting shorter. So we want to get that grip a bit stronger in a different place. Again, check out my grip series. We then start to feel how this cup could actually occur in the backswing a little bit more, which will allow the pressure down at strike to allow that golf club to swing around us. And hopefully, when you start to feel that pressure down on the handle and that golf club move around us, you'll start to understand that that ball can have that right to left shape on it. If you're tired of paying too much for your premium leather golf gloves, head over to gxgolfgloves.com. These are premium leather golf gloves that are trusted by tour players and elite amateurs alike. Use my code GOODGOLFCOACHING for 10% off your next order, and I promise you, you won't ever look back. So, when we think about how the hold interacts with how we use our wrists, they go hand in hand. You can't have a poor grip and then expect to create decent wrist angles. But for me, I'm never really encouraging people, well, never, that's a bit of a sweeping statement, 5% of people would I talk about wrist angles. Unless they're really, really extreme bow or they're really extreme cup. When you start to mess up wrist angles, you go into dangerous territory and you really start to feel like you're being compromised. So hopefully you understand that by using those wrist angles and start to actually create a little bit more cup in that left wrist, you could create draw, you can create down, and you can create from the inside. Have a little go. If you've got any questions, do pop them in the comments below. I always answer every single comment, and I think you'll find that, my friends, is good coaching.